Well, I learned to. It is really an illusion because like when we did Nothing Face and we had the Astronomy Dominée on a lot of airplay, did a tour with Faith No More and Soundgarden, then a tour with Rush, and I thought, yeah, we made it. And then Angerat came out, it didn't sell at all, and then we had to start over again. But it's really what I learned. You release an album, it doesn't sell, you write a new one, we try to make it better, and so we went back to the indie style with Eric Forrest as a trio, and then with Jason Newsted jumping in the band in the early 2000s. The spotlight was on us again because he was also playing with Ozzy, and we were opening for Ozzy. So it's another period where I thought we made it, But then, unfortunately, Piggy passed away, and then took a break. It really took Heavy Montreal in 2008 because for like 3 years, Jason, Snake, and I were on a mission to finish Infini and 14, the two albums we had started before Piggy's departure.
Hey, what's up, Vox and Hops heads? I'm Matt, the vocalist of Cryptopsy and the host of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast, brought to you by Sound Talent Media and Evergreen Podcasts, where I sit down with fellow metal musicians, talk all about their lives and music while sharing killer craft beers. Hope you had a killer week. I most certainly did. This Vox and Hops episode is presented by Heavy Montreal. Heavy Montreal is Montreal's premier metal promoter. If you are ever in Montreal and you are looking for a great metal show to go to, well, trust me, Heavy Montreal will have you covered. They put on a bunch of killer shows all year long. They are simply the best. Goddamn stoked to have them behind the podcast. Now, before we jump into today's episode, I'd just like to ask you to follow the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast on the podcast platform of your choice. But more than that, I would love for you to tell a friend about the podcast. If there's someone in your life that just loves extreme music, that just loves craft beer, well, you should absolutely let them know that the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast exists. If you would encourage one of your craft beer loving metalhead friends to become a brand new Vox and Hops head, that would be something that I would truly appreciate. Now, today's episode is a very special one. It was recorded at the 5-year anniversary party at Mutoïde back on October 21st here in Montreal. Get ready, everyone. This is Vox and Hops episode number 433 with Michel Langevin of Voivod.
I warn you, what you are about to hear is very disturbing indeed.
So what's up, everyone? Thank you so much for being here. Long time coming. I've been planning this night, thinking about this. For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Matt McGackie. I am the vocalist of Cryptopsy, the host of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast. 5 years ago, I started a podcast just to keep me busy because all my band members in Cryptopsy were really busy, and I knew that I would be getting jealous of all of their amazing projects that they had going on. So I started a podcast, and here I am, 5 years later, celebrating the 5 years with people that I met on the internet from across the globe. There's people from Mexico City. There's people from Texas. We got people from New Jersey, Ontario that flew here, drove here to be a part of it. People from Montreal as well. Of course, I appreciate you all. I am with an iconic guest tonight. I am with Michel Langevin, also known as Away from Voivod. I've always wanted to have you on the podcast. So when I was setting up the 5-year anniversary party, we are at Mutoïde, by the way, recording this live with a live audience. Make some noise. I totally always wanted to have you guys because there would be no Québec Metal. There'd be no metal, hypothetically, without your contribution to the scene. With all of that grand introduction, Michel, how are you doing?
I'm great, actually. Back home after a long 40th anniversary tour.
Hell yeah.
So I'm pretty relaxed right now, but it doesn't mean that we're not working on something. We're writing a new album right now.
Fuck yes.
And the last show for the 40th anniversary tour is December 16th at Place Belle with Meshuggah.
Just a little nice show to wrap it up at Place Belle. I like that.
Yes.
No better way to end it. Vox and Hops is all about hanging out with my metal friends, talking about their lives, music while sharing killer craft beers. Before us right now, for the people at home that didn't make it out and cannot see what we got here, there are 5 beers in front of us, tasters, and they are all part of the Metal Injection Presents Vox and Hops Pit Culture Project, which I've been doing throughout the whole year. It's about to wrap up. I've released 28 beers across the globe this year as a part of this project. Every beer depicts and describes a different move that happens in a mosh pit. What really happens in a mosh pit? I feel like a lot of people think that mosh pits are violent and dangerous, but you know, and I know that it's actually a place full of love, really.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, I was there in the mid-'80s, and and I was in the middle of a mosh pit once, and it can be pretty hectic. But yeah, it's pretty peaceful in a way. It's true. It's like order in chaos, and
which is exactly the name of one of the beers that we're about to drink. However, we are going to start with a different beer. We're going to kick it off with Kahnawake Brewing's and Mutoïde's Fighting Giants. This is an India Pale Kölsch. It comes in at 5.8%. Give me a cheers. And let's take a sip. Hell yeah. It's crisp, yet it's hoppy. It's smooth. I fucking love it. It's goddamn tasty.
I don't know about beer, but I just know it's really good.
It's really good. I appreciate your honesty. Continuing with the honesty train here, take me back to your very first beer. Do you remember the very first beer that you drank?
Yeah, it was not a beer, actually. I thought it was a beer, and I had my fake ID and everything, and I bought it. I think it was called porter, but it's something you have to mix with a beer.
Shit! Okay.
Yeah, and it's just like I don't know what it is. It's just really thick, and it didn't taste good at all. And I learned years later that you're not supposed to drink it like that. You're just supposed to mix it with a beer.
Interesting. See, that's this. I am not aware of this, and I'm going to have to do more research about this.
It was 70s. It was called porter.
God damn it! They wanted to make you work. Maybe it was a way to make beers into stouts, but back then by just adding something thick and dark.
It was recommended by a friend of me, and it was a prank. You know?
Oh, not a good friend.
It's not my friend anymore.
I don't think so. Before we sat down here, and you mentioned just a moment ago that you're not the biggest craft beer enthusiast.
Chewy in the band,
Chewy
guitar player.
Yes, because he works a bit with Huff and Stark too, and he totally made a Voivod beer, which was super interesting.
Yeah, we had a couple, and also we had one at Decibel Metal Fest.
Yes, you did. Yeah.
Memory Fader, it was called. Yeah.
I do enjoy the most recent one that he made, Lost Machine.
Yes,
that Fred put together for you guys, where it's called a Stein beer. And a Stein beer, for people that don't know, they heat up these rocks on a fire, and then they pick up these rocks, and then they put it into the wort as it's boiling, and they let this rock do some iodizing effects. And all the beer nerds here are going to tell me I'm wrong with my description, but that's the closest thing that I understand about what happened to this beer.
Yeah, it's true. It's and actually based on the concept of the song Lost Machine, where a kid has a rock and can throw it into a machine to stop satellite. It's a sci-fi story.
The concept goes full circle into the music, into the beer.
Yes, yeah.
I fucking love that. Talk to me about the soundtrack of your youth. This is a classic Vox and Hops question. I ask every guest this question. There's a reason why I ask it. I'd love to hear about the music that was playing in your house before you were in control of the radio. What music did your parents or guardians listen to?
Actually, my father was into the Rolling Stone, which is pretty cool. I was arguing a lot with him because I was into the Beatles, but he had and my mother was more into the Joe Dassin, Dalida, which I still like when I hear it, and ABBA.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, a lot of but she had the most amazing vinyl that I still have, and
nice.
It's Vangelis, L'Apocalypse des Animaux, and it's really, really cool soundtrack for an environmental movie. from the 70s, and I still have her vinyl.
That's super sick.
Yeah. That's the one I like the most. I actually ended up playing it myself.
Really? Later on?
Yeah.
I love that. That's full circle and honoring where you came from to the truest form.
And I had my father's single, Honky Tonk Woman, an original.
Yeah.
I would be very rich now if I still have it.
Sometimes we don't know. You never know. What was it about the Beatles that entranced you so much? What was it about them versus the Stones that encaptured you so much?
I saw a couple of movies, Help and Hard Day's Night, and there was some Beatles footage where I could see Ringo banging really hard on the drums, and the drums was moving, and a lot of energy. So, but it's a coincidence that I was walking in the street when I was really young, and there's a new kid in the street playing guitar on the sidewalk, and he was playing Beatles songs, and but he was singing in fake English, yes. But he knew all the chords, and but he was like my age, like 9 or something.
Wow.
And I asked him, like, where did you learn that? And he explained to me that he was in a band with his brothers and his father, and they were called the Teddy Boys, and it was like a Partridge Family thing.
That's so cool.
So I went to his home, and there was a lot of gear everywhere, and I immediately went for the drum.
Nice.
The cymbals looked like flying saucers. I loved it, but the problem was his older brother had hidden the drumsticks.
Because he's smart. Yeah.
So we found his pool cues, and we chopped them up.
Where there is a will, there is a way, people.
He was furious.
I can imagine.
So that was my first experience, playing on a real drum kit with pool cues on Beatles songs. Yeah. So but I still my favorite band. But soon I switched to a couple of years after I asked for Kiss Alive 1 when it came out for Christmas, and I got it. And everybody was like, put it on. So I put it on, and they're like, take it off. My new favorite band.
Because it's just too much.
And it just went, my sister's new boyfriend showed up with 8-track tapes in his muscle car of Led Zeppelin 2, Uriah Heep, Demons and Wizards.
Yeah.
The other one was Deep Purple in Rock. And that's where I learned. I had a lot to learn drum-wise, and so it went like that,
The steps, that's all we got to do as musicians, for sure. Take me back to that first Beatles jam. Some people just got it. Some people just have the rhythm. Some people just know how to play an instrument.
Yeah.
There's like an innate thing that just some people are born with. Was that you? That first jam, did you understand the instrument enough to perform some songs with this prolific 9-year-old guitarist?
Well, first, I was playing a lot on my pillows.
Okay, before the drum set.
Yeah, and that was I was trying to figure out the beats, and I destroyed all the pillows and everything. and the Beatles songs, I got them the first time around, but the Honky Tonk Woman song from the Rolling Stones, I was just going boom, ta, 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 like I had no idea. And then I was trying some Elvis songs, and that's even harder because it's the Motorhead beat, But all of this came really handy later when time came for me to learn like AC/DC. I knew the Beatles beat, Motorhead, I knew the Elvis beat, and so on. It's just an extension.
You're just like putting tools into your toolbox that you can pull out and then expand upon.
Yeah, and also up north in the high school, I was reading a lot eventually while listening to prog rock and hard rock and all that. I was hearing a lot about the new punk movement in Rock and Folk magazine. And I couldn't wait until I could get a hold of the Pistols, Stranglers, the Damned. And when I finally got these vinyls, I moved more into a tribal style. A lot of toms happening.
The toms were unlocked.
Yeah. But the real spark for me was when I walked into a store and I saw the first Iron Maiden album. and then I immediately grabbed it before anyone could. And it was already my favorite band, just watching the cover, you know. And when I put it on at home, it was exactly the type of music I wanted to hear. And
music that you didn't know existed.
No, and it was like punk, metal, goth, prog, one package, you know. And that's really where I decided that I was gonna try to be a heavy metal drummer. Yeah,
I think that's fucking awesome. We're switching up beers. We're moving to Lepotskai's Order in Chaos, as you mentioned before. This one is a hoppy lager, 4.8%. Cheers. Cheers. Now this is a crusher. This is smooth as hell. The hops are subtle. A nice little bitter bite of the lager aspect of it. Fucking love that.
It's not too strong, so that's the type of beer I like to have on stage.
Yes.
Yeah. And
yes.
So I always like a light blonde or something. And once in Belgium,
I know where this is going.
It ends with Snake breaking 2 ribs.
Oh shit!
But they had like 18% beers or something.
Yes, they do.
And while on stage, halfway through the show, I was like, "What's going on here?"
Oh, it's a 9%. It's a 9% triple. Yeah. Typically in Belgium, whenever we go there, they give us these cases of La Chimay. And I don't know if it's for your experience with Voivod, but with Cryptopsy, very typically, we tend to go to London after Belgium, and you got to go across the border to take the ferry and flow every day when we go. But tomorrow we're crossing the border. You guys need to behave yourselves so that we have a nice border crossing, and then historically we don't listen. But
yeah, of course. I mean, you know, Snake is not here, so I can talk about him. And, a couple of times I was like, "Hey, tomorrow it's LA. Everyone is there."
Exactly.
And then in the afternoon is on his backstage.
Coffee and a nap. Stat. Take me to your first shows. Do you remember the very first music that you went to go watch?
Oh yeah, it was. Well, first it was in the 70s. I went to see Jethro Tull with the band UK at the Québec Coliseum.
Yeah.
And it was really amazing because Terry Bozzio was on drums with UK.
Wow.
And, it's the first time I saw a prog rock drummer rocking. You know,
Yeah.
And it was a great experience, except that I hitchhiked to the show. And I was a teenager, and after the show, I realized I had no lift to go back across the park home. You know,
Yeah.
It was a long way home. So I saw a bus from the Cégep de Jonquière, a school bus, and I jumped on it, and I sat down, and suddenly there's one place missing in the bus. So I'm like, and somebody is like, "There's a spy in the bus." It was me. I was lucky because the driver let me sit on the front
cool.
in the stairway, which was totally illegal, you know.
Yes, of course.
So I went back across the park to my parents' place safely.
Oh yeah, well,
But,
cheers to that bus driver for breaking the law and letting you get home after a cool musical experience.
Amazing show.
That's so cool. Do you remember your first time on stage?
First time on stage.
There's probably no stage. It typically is that.
I have well, it's it's my first experience on stage was I was starting on drums, and I was about 14 and some guy showed up at my parents' place. He's like, "Oh, my drummer is drunk on the sofa. We have a wedding. Can you do it?"
No way.
And it's like Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin. We don't play that stuff. We play Beatles, Elvis. All right, good.
I'm totally good in the pocket.
So we go way off in the woods in the Péribonka, and then the first, no rehearsal, nothing. And so the guy turns around, he's like, "Cha-cha." And then I have no idea how to play cha-cha. So I'm playing like tan, 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 tan. And then after that he turns around, he's like, rumba, samba.
So it's all
It was very strange.
Wow.
And then finally, they play one Elvis medley, and I was so happy.
You crushed it.
And the first drum roll, at this point, the singer guy was really drunk. And the first drum roll is stopped. He turns around, he's like, whoa, le jeune, whoa. All right. So first
too much, over the top.
A wedding in Périboncaille around 77, 78-ish. Yeah.
It's amazing.
But after that, you have to go to the Voivod
era.
First shows in 83.
So sick. I was conceived and born in 83, so we had a good year in 83. I fucking love that. Something that I love about you that is just so iconic and interesting is that you're more than a drummer, you're also a prolific artist. Talk to me about that. Take me back to discovering art and learning that you can draw and doodling. How early did that begin?
Yeah, it was very young. I don't know if you remember the cartoon character called Atom Ant.
It sounds very familiar.
Very old. Atomic Ant.
Okay.
And it was my first hero.
Awesome.
So I went to my cousin's place with my parents for Christmas, and my cousin, he had drawn Atom Ant and put it on the wall. And I asked him, "Can you give it to me?" He said, "No, but I can show you how to draw." And I never stopped after. And eventually, like the cover of Negatron is homage to that Atom Ant character.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
What was it about drawing that just captivated you? What was it about like seeing something on that wall and then you wanting it and then being able to do it yourself? What was that, the need there?
When I realized that I could do it, I was really, really happy. And so I just, everything I saw on TV, Ultraman, or, I like to draw what I saw on TV, and I never stopped, but it's in the mid-70s I discovered the magazine Metal Hurlant, became Heavy Metal magazine. It's where I decided I wanted to be a comic book artist, and it's also where I created the Voivod concept. But first it was based on Lord of the Rings and Dracula, the book Dracula, but slowly with the Cold War and anarchist punk bands, it turned into a post-apocalyptic concept. And there were also a couple of movies, I think one is called If You Love This Planet. It's a great documentary, National Film Board, about nuclear stockpiles, and so this was very influential. There was a made-for-TV movie called The Day After, after a nuclear bomb, so by the time Snake joined the band in January '83, the concept was pretty much post-nuclear vampire, oriented,
How similar, and are there any similarities between being an artist, a visual artist, and an artist that builds drum beats and builds everything out? Is that like two separate identities within yourself, or is there a crossover there?
For me, it's really hard to tell because I always, my drawings were influenced by Voivod music and vice versa. Everything was intertwined, the lyrics, the music, the art. So it's all really connected. The process is probably the same in terms of if I have to find a drum beat, I will usually go like my technique is my first idea would be to play that. I'll play the opposite. And when I do the drawing, I always think, the first thing in mind would, it would be to draw something there, but I'll do something totally different. So I try to explore a lot, and
like pushing your own first intuition. Your first intuition is something that you take and say, how can I make this better? Even before you put your pen on paper, drums on the skins.
Less cliche, less obvious, more weirder.
Yeah, which is why you have such an identity, both visually and as a drum player.
I tried to find my signature right away, but
that takes time. Yeah,
there are a couple of artists I really copied, mainly the heavy metal magazine artists like Philippe Drouillet, Bilal, Moebius. These are the people that I learned from, and then I saw the movie Alien, and then my art changed, and also Eraserhead by David Lynch, The Wall by Pink Floyd. So every time I would see a movie like that, an artsy movie, my art kind of changed, but it also changed with the music because I always drew while listening to music. So when I discovered,
that's super sick. Yeah.
So when I discovered industrial music in the 80s, my art changed as well, and so on and so on. For a while in the 70s, I was copying the prog rock covers like Yes and krautrock like Klaus Schulze or Tangerine Dream.
I think the 70s into all that prog, the attention to detail that they put into the cover art, was really, really inspiring.
I'm sure glad that we lately went back to the vinyl
exactly.
format,
so it's like a bigger piece of art.
Yeah, so I can make scenery. Yeah.
It is very interesting that you picked up that Iron Maiden, you saw it, you knew that you were going to love it. Eddie was there, so having like an emblem, a band having a concept, having an identity crafted even before you guys started putting music together. How important was that for you? So that the band actually had a concept that could be a lyrical identity, a visual identity. A lot of bands only stumble into that much later into their career, but you guys started way before that.
Well, we did play a few covers there and there when we started. Judas Priest, Venom, Motorhead, Tank, mainly new wave of British heavy metal. But soon enough, we started writing music of our own, and the prog rock element was still there, the punk rock element was still there, but it was definitely heavy metal oriented, and but. It's hard to tell. Like when I asked Snake at school at college to if he wanted to sing with us, he said, "I don't know how to sing, but I want to try." And I told him to learn the Ripper, and he at the audition he sang it like Johnny Rotten from Pistols, And I thought it was amazing right away. And so we sort of had a style immediately without knowing. We didn't know that obscure prog rock was not very popular outside of the province of Quebec,
That is true, though, because it was massive in Quebec. We're going to hit that in a few. I have a question about that later, but.
Well, like when Snake joined in January '83, we were looking for a name, and I mentioned Voivod. They're like, "How do you spell it?" Of course, and then they were curious immediately, and I explained that it was a concept that I had created for the comic books I had in mind, but we ended up developing the concept all through the 80s, over 5 albums. It was a really amazing experience. Yeah,
I think it's very, very, very cool. I like to play with concepts myself, but to have like a whole dimension, basically a whole world that you can just play with and imagine these characters and
it's like it's really influenced by what was going on back then, like
absolutely
the Star Wars project from Reagan, Chernobyl accident, Challenger explosions. It's all in there.
Interesting.
But it's in the sci-fi folk tales type of thing. And so I was lucky that the guys wanted to do that. And I sat down with Snake, and I'm really space oriented, and he's more street oriented, and we connected like the dots, and it turned into this thrash metal stories, really.
I think it's fucking awesome. Is there ever a moment that you came to a point where you hit like writer's block and the band was more advanced and your concept was not caught up, or the art aspect of it as well, where you are not sure how to visually represent this album, and it's sort of this obstacle that you had to get across?
The wall we hit at one point was after Nothing Face. when we were writing Angel Rat, and Snake didn't want to deal with the concept anymore.
Interesting.
He wanted to talk about other things. And
Interesting.
So it's really where we put it aside.
Okay.
Brought it back.
How hard was that for you to accept?
Oh, we had a meeting where I was asked to put less double kick drums and less conceptual stories, and I didn't take it really personally.
No,
I knew that MCA wanted the band to succeed because they were investing a lot of money. I went along for the ride, but when Angel Rat came out, everybody's eyes were turned on Seattle. You know, it's the same year as Smells Like Teen Spirit and all that. So it sort of went under the radar, and now people love it. You know.
That's what happens. Yeah. We're switching gears. I'm moving to another beer. This is Le Fermentor's. It's their Toxic Waltz. When I wrote Patrick, one of the main dudes behind Le Fermentor, he sings for Reanimator, to be a part of this project, he immediately wrote back Toxic Waltz. So he picked that name early on. This is a West Coast IPA. It's 6%, so it's going to be, there'll be a bit more bitter bite is my anticipation. Something that I get asked all the time, and I know you do too, and I would like to know your answer because you are a part of my answer. And I imagine you know where I'm going with this, is the Quebec metal scene. Why and how, what is your answer? I have my answer. My answer I built from interviewing so many people and asking them this question, but I got the most concrete answer from Félix B. Desfossés, who wrote the encyclopedia, The History of Metal in Quebec, and his answer was extremely clear and made a lot of sense to me. So I've sort of like stole it, but always credit him. What is your explanation as to why Quebec has so many prolific, amazing, extreme bands that succeeded globally?
Oh man, I do, I cross paths with tons of Quebec bands at festivals, and they have a great reputation for being really technical. And I don't know where it comes from. On my end, I was lucky that bands like Anvil and Exciter made it to Jonquière. They usually play 2 sets a night for the whole week, and we'd be like on the front watching them the whole week.
That's so cool.
It was before Voivod.
Yeah.
But we played with Anvil at Wacken, and Lips remembers us sitting on the front.
He's super cool, man.
Yeah, cool guy. And Rush was a great influence for Voivod, but if it was not for our friends Wayne Archibald, I don't think we would have known about that new wave of British heavy metal on time, and so because he was a tape trader, and we sort of opened the doors very early, and soon enough there was like Aggression, Damnation, and Dead Brain Cells, and a lot of when we moved to Montreal in '85, it was mainly hardcore. Hardcore was really big, and where we rehearsed were bands like Scum, The Unruled, Fair Warning, Countdown Zero. So we got a lot of ideas from these guys through the walls. So it's when the crossover happened, and metal dudes became more punk and vice versa. But it took a bit of a while before bands from Quebec made it internationally. Probably in the early 90s is where I started to see shirts from bands from Quebec around the globe.
We're very, very lucky that the scene that we had, that prog scene, and this is a part of Felix's answer, is that a lot of musicians in your era went to the CJAPs to see all the prog bands play. because they would tour here and they were massive here. Yes, and Genesis. They would come and be way more successful in Quebec than most other places in the world.
Not only that, but when I was in high school and college, I got to see Quebec bands that they were playing very good prog rock. Manège, Slush, Morse Code, Octob. It was amazing. And so they had not only did people in Quebec love UK prog, but there was a huge Québécois prog scene.
That's super sick.
Yeah, and very, very good musicians.
I think it's fucking awesome.
There is a label called Prog Quebec. I buy everything they put out. It's all reissues from way back. And
hell yeah. Well, go check it out, people, if you want the old school Prog Quebec going on. I think that's fucking awesome. Well, thank you for doing, like, you know, starting a band and being successful and showing other Quebecois bands that it's possible. I think that a big part of the reason why a lot of us keep trying to do it early on is because we all saw you guys do it and you made it seem realistic.
Yes,
there's a lot of work that went into it, obviously.
It was a long roller coaster ride. And actually, at first, you know, I didn't know if it was possible. I remember seeing Anvil opening for Iron Maiden for the Number of the Beast tour at Coliseum in Quebec, and I remember thinking, not only I'll never be in a band big enough to be like Iron Maiden, I'll never be in a band big enough to be Anvil open. Yeah. So but War and Pain came out. I didn't dare quitting university until the first album came out. And then it had a very good impact, and that's really where I started to think, okay, maybe
take a chance.
Maybe I can do it professionally. So I quit school and went for it, you know. But it was a lot of work, and at times people were telling me that I was crazy to keep on keeping on. And but now we have a great momentum, more popular than ever. So I was not crazy in the end.
No, you did the right thing. You did the right thing away. So this is something that I think about a lot, and I analyzed for myself in my career. This concept, this idea of making it. And you bringing up that Anvil thing and seeing, like, I'll never be there. Because in your mind at that time, I imagine, like, had you had played that show and be there, you had made it, let's say. There's always the fallacy of we're going to get signed and now we've made it.
Yeah, well.
But what is making it? And I think it's a very personal, subjective thing. So for yourself, at what point did you ever imagine? Are you satisfied? Have you said you've made it, let's say?
Well, I learned to... It is really an illusion.
Yeah, I know.
Because...
I'm still chasing it for some stupid reason.
Like when we did Nothing Face and we had the Astronomie Dominée on a lot of airplay.
Yeah.
Did a tour with Faith No More and Soundgarden, then a tour with Rush, and I thought, yeah, we made it. And then Angerat came out, it didn't sell at all. And then we had to start over again. But it's really what I learned. You release an album, it doesn't sell, you write a new one, we try to make it better. And we went back to the indie style with Eric Forrest as a trio, and then with Jason Newsted jumping in the band in the early 2000s. The spotlight was on us again because he was also playing with Ozzy, and we were opening for Ozzy. So it's another period where I thought we made it, you know. But then, unfortunately, Piggy passed away, and then took a break. It really took Heavy Montreal in 2008 before...
To bring you guys back.
Yeah, because for like 3 years, Jason, Snake, and I were on a mission to finish Infini and 14, the two albums we had started before Piggy's departure.
Jason loves you guys. I hosted the after parties for the live stream you did, and having him in the Zoom and watching everyone's face whenever he would speak, I would see all the little squares on my side because I was hosting it. people were very stoked.
Yeah, he's really great. He's so hyper, that
He
guy.
loves you so much.
He's always been like really supportive. We've met him in the 80s, and Piggy and I did a lot of recordings with him in the 90s under the name Tarrat, T-A-R-T-R-A-T, and it was never released, but it was a fun thing, and so a great friend. So when Snake came back in the early 2000s, it made sense for me to phone him, and it was very strange because I phoned him in mid-January of 2001, and to see if he could be to play bass on the album we wanted to write, and he told me, "How did you know?" I said, "What?" He said, "I just left Metallica."
Oh shit!
Yeah,
it was just timing.
I had no idea.
No, of course not.
Yeah, and he got really excited and ended up joining the band. A great adventure.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Timing.
Yeah, very
Timing.
strange.
Unbelievable. I think that's fucking awesome. Something else is that you did very cool. Something that I'm very close to because I have young children. I work as an early childhood educator when I'm not doing death metal or drinking beers and asking people questions, having nice conversations with friends. You released a children's book, and I have it at my house, and I read it to my kids, and it's called Voivod le Thrash Metal expliqué aux enfants, and it was written by Pierre Girard. So it's basically thrash metal explained to children. Talk to me about this project, and then watching like your iconic art being made for children, like not dumbed down, but let's say infantilized, let's say.
It's actually they sent me the first draft, and I was blown away immediately. I liked the art of Pierre because I saw his art on the window of the vinyl store, the Knockout in Quebec City.
Really?
And
okay.
I really he had drawn Voivod and a whole. So I love this art, and I was really happy with the project. And it's really funny because there are kids now into Voivod. And
it's awesome.
We in Trois-Rivières, we saw a kid. He was about 3 or 2.5, and he had the book. And he was a bit taken aback because we were real people, and he thought we were cartoons.
I don't know what Chewy's hair. I'm not sure it's human. We'll see.
It's a great thing, I love it. It's really popular.
I think it's very special and very unique, and it's cool. It's like an interesting, very cool thing that the crossover of my two lives and you guys doing that. I think it's awesome.
It's new for us, to sign kids' books for kids.
Awesome.
Why not?
Something that I love to ask musicians that have succeeded and done basically everything. You've won a Juno. You've opened for Ozzy. You've toured all over the world. You've played all the major festivals. But as we started this off, you mentioned that you're writing a new album. Why do you keep going? What keeps you motivated?
I don't know why I dedicated my 40 years to Voivod. But the one thing is, I really, really love to travel.
Oh, okay.
I love it. I love to travel, play Voivod music in front of old friends, new friends, and now there are many generations of people coming to the show, so the clubs are packed.
Like the father, the son.
Yeah, and my favorite part is after the day, in every city, I do one drawing I post online, and it's my impression of the day. It's my favorite part, and it's my next book, actually. It's the road art.
That's a great idea. Yeah.
So I think every time we stop, I went back to reforming Voivod because I wanted to travel, and it was really hard during the pandemic. So we started with doing online shows.
Exactly.
Yeah, and playing classic albums.
Exactly.
And then we did some shows in the province of Quebec where everybody was 2 meters apart. We all had a mask on, and so and slowly but surely we started to tour internationally last year. and
you were back home.
It's been really hectic, you know. Yeah.
So basically, you're only in Voivod for the free plane tickets.
The plane tickets are not free these days. It's actually the bad surprise we had post-pandemic was the cost of the plane tickets, hotels, tour bus, crew.
Through the roof.
Yeah. It's hard it's really hard to make it, and
you got to buy merch, people.
Yeah, the merch is really saving us. Yeah, totally. And,
you got to buy merch, people. 2024 is going to be a big year. You're writing a new album. Maybe it'll come out then. I don't know how fast you guys work, but there is a book in the works, and there's a movie. Talk to me about both of these. Are they the history of Voivod? What's going on here?
Yeah, the book is by Jeff Wagner, very versed in metal and progressive rock, and it's called Always Moving, The Strange Multiverse of Voivod. Yeah. And this should be out in the spring. Yeah. The movie is by Felipe Belalcazar, who did the Death by Metal movie, and this is like, I think Felipe said a version could be available for the Summer Fest next year.
Nice.
So in the summer.
So basically, people can go to Wacken hypothetically, go to Hellfest hypothetically, and there will be premieres of the movie.
I saw the last draft. It's really where I realized my career was really eventful. It's 40 years nonstop.
Sometimes you forget some stuff, right?
And right now they're doing animation with my art.
That's so cool.
So I think in the summer should be done. It was really slowed down by the pandemic as well, because Felipe could not travel for interviews, and so we wanted the book and the movie to come out this year for the 40th anniversary, but
sometimes you just have to. You got to take a breath and just say, 41 years is good too.
At least we had the Morgoth Tales album this year. Yeah.
You guys don't stop. You're very impressive.
When we it was in March 19, 2020, I think, when everything stopped for everybody, and we checked into our bank, and we had the recordings of Montreal Jazz Fest in 2019, and also Quebec City Summer Fest, and so we released vinyls.
Hell yeah.
We just did a bunch of releases, Ultraman cover, and so we never really stopped. And also we were forced to write an album while socially distancing. So we learned to sync up on the Logic Pro, and while we could not meet in the studio because of restrictions, we were still writing music.
But remotely.
And now we can do that because of that technique we learned. We can do that in the tour bus, in the hotel rooms. So right now, everybody's at home, taking it easy for a short while, but we are like sharing files. I program a lot of drums for the demos, and so we keep moving, you know.
It's very, very impressive, because a lot of bands go home and they're spent and they need to just take time and recharge. So good for you to keep working and pushing and bringing Voivod to the higher and higher level.
We have a great chemistry, and we want to use it for as long as we can and as much as we can, and things are going great.
Absolutely. Yeah. We're going to switch beers. We're moving on to Jackalhop. This is the 4th out of the 5 pit culture beers that just dropped. This is called Headbang. It's a New England pale ale that they hopped with Idaho 7 and Idaho Gem. I gotta say that all the hops that went into this beer were provided by Yakima Chief Hops. They sponsored this project. Shout out to Luc Beaulieu. Make some noise for Luc. It's like light and juicy. Cuts the bitterness from the last one right in half. At this point, let's talk about collabs. We're exactly at this point. I like making beer collabs. You have made beer collabs, but it's not your thing. If you could make a collab, what would be the perfect away collab? Something that really represents your identity, something that really represents you. If you could collab with any company in the world, what would it be?
Oh, know. I don't know. Like, what about here? Do they produce beer at Mutoïde?
Oh, hell yes, they do.
Yeah, maybe we can do a collab with Mutoïde.
There you go, JM. You want a Voivod beer? It has been done. Alex is in. We're good. That'd be cool. But what, something even more like to yourself, like a. Do you draw with crayons for real? Do you do Procreate? Where? How do you draw?
Oh, I have. At first, I did acrylic paintings, but I was studying in science and I had no idea. So I had to switch. Eventually, I had to switch to digital in the mid-80s. Yeah, with Commodore Amiga. First, I started with Apple II, and then I bought a Commodore Amiga, and I did the videos for the Dimension Atros albums and Nothing Face cover. And now I replaced Photoshop with Procreate and iPad, digital pen, But it would take me so long to do one painting. I switched to digital, and people were telling me it was not art because it was digital back then, and now, of course,
everyone does that.
Yeah, and these days I'm getting a lot of help from AI, and of course people will tell me that
is not art. Yeah,
but I feed the AI with my art.
That's interesting.
That's
really cool. Actually,
it's really fascinating to see the interpretation of the AI of my art, especially if you type the word dystopian or something.
Yeah.
The vision of dystopia from an AI machine. At first, I was really jealous because it was amazing. So now I'm getting help from AI for videos and
that's
art.
cool.
Yeah.
Good for you. Use the technology to your advantage.
I have to. People complain a lot, but for the last 2 or 3 videos, we've been using AI, and it would take me about 3,000 years to do that. It's really insane. It's unbelievable. So it's there. While it's there, we're using it.
Absolutely. At this point, I would open up the floor to a Q&A. Anyone have some questions that they would like to ask? Away. Step up to the mic. Talking to the mic as usual. The first one up is Philippe from the Deux Vitesses, from the Whispers from the Void podcast.
Yeah, so my question is, you mentioned comic books. Have you ever thought about doing it for the Voivod universe?
Yes, I've been thinking about doing a comic. I've been asked to do a Voivod comic book many times, but I've been so busy being a rock and roll drummer on the road. It's really hard. It's a lot of work. During the pandemic, I did a comic book that I put online for sale online. It's called Tales from the Net. It's really like strange stories I gather over decades. I put it into a book, but a Voivod comic book, it's a great idea, but I'll have to think about retirement project type of scenario because it's a lot of work.
That could be interesting because, you mentioned comic books, you mentioned sci-fi and all, and I was thinking about Coheed and Cambria. That's what they do. All their music is based on the comic book of the singer. So maybe you could do something like this for the Voivod universe. Maybe you use an album that you did and just describe the story about it. That could be interesting.
Yeah, I'd love to do it eventually, to do the Voivod concept. At least there were 7 chapters, and the first 5 albums, and then Phobos in the 90s, and then there is a lost album that it was a final chapter. We were supposed to record it with Steve Albini, but we only demoed it, and so this was supposed to be the final chapter of the story. And so hopefully someday I can do something about it, but it's just that ever since we reformed in 2008, it just seems like we're touring more and more and more and more. So right now, I'm trying to wrap up the book about the road art that I do. Yeah, but I know that in February, things are gonna start over again for us. We have 2 shows in Joliette and Saint-Hyacinthe in February, but then right after, we go around the world again. Yeah.
That could be interesting. amazing. I would be the first to buy it if you do it.
It might be computer generated with the iPad and the digital
That's
pen.
good. That's good. I mean, like, personally, I'm not the biggest fan of AI, but I understand why people use it.
But I don't mean that I would use AI for it, but I would definitely do it on my iPad with a digital pen. Yeah,
That's great. That's
because,
great.
Again, I love to draw ink on the road. I take the notepad from the hotel room and the pen from the hotel room to do like drawings. Sometimes it's blue. I love it, so I will never stop doing that. But if I have to do something for Voivod that's going to end up in a layout, or I do it with Procreate and a digital pen, yeah. And I wish I would be more versed into acrylic or oil painting.
Yeah.
That when I sent the War and Pain cover to Metal Blade in '84, they were really nervous because the drummer was doing the painting. But I had done one painting for my grandmother in high school, and that was it. It was a bold move, but I really wanted to represent the music and the lyrics, and also I had in mind the event where when I first came into the store and I saw the Iron Maiden cover. It's what I had in mind. It has to attract the eye of the kid, and it has to represent the music when you put the needle on, and the lyrics. Yeah,
that's very good. Well, thank you for your time. You're the best drummer. Honestly, I fucking love you.
Thank you very much.
Cheers. La mic est à toi.
So yeah, I just like, after touring with all these guys like Rush and Ozzy and everything like that, was there a moment for you where you had a starstruck moment with someone you met, and how was it? Did you expect the person to react like they reacted to you, or were they sweet? Were they an asshole or whatever?
Yeah, I was lucky. Because when we toured with Rush, the both managements organized a meeting with the two bands. They were so nice, but we were pretty silent. We didn't say much. I didn't know what to tell the drummer, Neil Peart. He was a hero of mine. But they were super nice, which is great. And then, once I was really starstruck. It's my favorite band is called Van der Graaf Generator, and it's a progressive rock band from UK. And 5 or 6 years ago, I was asked to go and pick up the Visionary Award of Prog Magazine in London, and he was there, and he was talking to me in French, and he was a super nice guy, and I was really starstruck that time as well. So that's the 2 time. I met the drummer from Magma, Christian Vander, another hero of mine, super nice guy. So far so good, it's great, and we ended up opening for all of our heroes, Judas Priest, Dio, Motorhead, Iron Maiden. Everybody was nothing but polite to us. So I didn't. There's a band I really like called Lucifer's Friend, and they're an older band from UK from the 70s, and we played Sweden rock with them. They had the backstage right next door to us, so I saw their name and I went into the tent and I said, "Hey, I'm a big fan," and they looked at me. Very, very mean, and I just backed like when Homer Simpson's backed in the but it could have been a bad moment where they had a fight before, or I don't know, so, but it's something that I won't do again because of that. I will never barge into a backstage.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for being here. It's great. It's really cool to have you here. Thank you for doing this with all of us.
Thank you.
And you mentioned so many bands throughout the interview, and you accomplished so many things musically that I was just wondering, when you're not on tour, when you're just at home, or when you're driving or just chilling, what's on your playlist? What you are listening to? And is there any band that you still listen to that still gives you the chills? It still makes you feel that energy like when you first listened to them?
Yes, I mean, I'm very old school, so quite often if I buy a new album, it will be the new album from heroes of mine, and some of these heroes still release amazing music, like Judas Priest or Magma, Vandergraaf, PIL, and so I usually buy the new album from older bands, but while touring, sometimes my mind will be blown by a band that I will see on stage, and the one that really blew me away the last couple of years was Gojira. Every time I see them, I'm totally blown away. Yeah. So I only basically have access to newer music while playing festivals, which is great. I make sure to go from one stage to the other and watch what's going on. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
Hell yes. Thank you all for being here. We're going to wrap this up. One last beer to present. This is Lira Nitzrais. This beer, it's called Breakdown. I'm surprised it took this long in the Pit Culture project for someone to pick that name, but I'm happy they did. This is a West Coast IPA, 6.2%. Cheers, everyone. See, different, more smooth, more almost crisp at the end. Very, very cool. Classic Vox&Hops wrap-up question. It probably doesn't happen to you very often because you don't enjoy craft beer the way I do. But every once in a while, especially in Belgium, if you're playing a show and you're halfway through the set and you're like, what the hell did they give me? And you look down, it might happen to you. And hypothetically, Snake might be better at answering this question. What is your hangover cure?
Oh, I think Putin, I think.
Hell fucking yes. Everyone here, 5th anniversary party at Mutoïde. Make some fucking noise for Away from Voivod. Thank you so much for all being here. What a way to celebrate 5 years. I appreciate you all. Thank you so fucking much. Cheers. Thank you all so much for listening right to the end. You know that I love and appreciate that. Man, this was an awesome conversation. What a night. The 5-year anniversary party at Mutoïde for Vox&Hops. What a pleasure. Sadly, Snake from Voivod was unable to be with us. He had car troubles and was just physically incapable of coming to the party, sadly. I will hang out with Snake one day. He is one of those guests that I've always wanted to have, such as Away. What a pleasure it was to hang out with Away. He was just so generous with his time, with the way that he answered his questions. He is such an influential artist, both drummer and as a visual artist. What a wonderful human. Just super interesting the way that he approaches creating stuff, always thinking from a different perspective, always trying to do something a little bit different. I find that truly inspiring, and I cannot wait to see that brand new book that he's putting together of all of his illustrations that he's been drawing on the road. I think that's super cool. Massive thanks to Away and the rest of the Voivod camp for just being awesome and being a part of this awesome thing that I've done for the past 5 years called Vox&Hops. Now, if you enjoyed this Vox&Hops episode, you should sign up to the Vox&Hops Metal Podcast mailing list. You can do that on my website, voxandhops.com. That's VOXANDHOPS.com. And when you do that, you shall receive one email a week that contains all of the details of everything that has happened recently in the world of the Vox&Hops Metal Podcast. You get to see which episodes I dropped recently. You will get to see which episodes I have coming up. You will get to hear about any projects I have in the works before I announce them to the public. You will also get to find out what's going on in the world of Cryptopsy, and with As Gamora Burns dropping just last month, we have a lot of stuff going on. So if you want to be up to date in that, sign up to the mailing list. The mailing list also includes all the details of all the albums that the Vox&Hops album review crew have reviewed recently, and you will get to see which albums Jerry Monk, Vox&Hops' metal architect, has added to the Brutal Awakenings playlist. There's always a lot of stuff going on in the world of the Vox&Hops Metal podcast. So please do me a favor and sign up to the mailing list, because I hate when you miss a single thing. The Vox&Hops Metal podcast is brought to you by Sound Talent Media and Evergreen Podcasts. I hope you have a killer rest of the week. I will be back next week on Tuesday with another episode, a very cool episode, which I recorded on the Carnival of Death tour when we swung through Roseville. It is a crossover episode with the Cali Death podcast. That's right. Very cool metal podcast that I like very, very much. Get ready, everyone. That's coming up next week. But until then, remember to enjoy life, metal, and craft beer. Cheers, Vox and Hops heads.